Welcome and welcome to CGTN. This is a roundtable discussion, Coffee with Ambassadors, and we're coming to you live from Beijing. I'm CGTN reporter Jiao Chunhe. This is a very special discussion because we have both ambassadors for our series. Also, we have a lot of the guests from both China and from the African continent. And we discuss, for this episode precisely, we discuss the relationship between China and Kenya. Joining us live, we have, let me introduce our distinguished guests. We have Mr. Willy Bett. He is the Kenyan Ambassador to China. We have Mr. Diao Chunhe, and he's the Executive Chairman of Alliance of Chinese Business in Africa for Social Responsibilities. We also have Mr. Jamlick Mwangi Kariuki, and he's a Kenyan student here, international student here in China, postgraduate student at Beijing Jiaotong University. Welcome all of you. You may not notice that all three of guests, they're somehow related, how the story developed. We'll take this live streaming. We're coming to you live on CGTN platforms, and then we'll take this opportunity to tell the stories of all three of you, as well as you engagement with China, with Kenya. If you're watching this live, here's a short notice that you can feel free to post your questions and your comments on our social media platforms. We're here on YouTube, Facebook, and multiple platforms, as well as social media platforms in the Chinese social media platforms. So you can post your questions. I can read it out for you. But first of all, let me welcome our distinguished guest, Mr. Bett. Ambassador, welcome to our program. I guess my first question is, you just got started in January, right? What's your general impression in Beijing and in China in general?
Thank you very much. As you rightly said, I am 6 months into my assignment here in
the most exciting
China.
period. Yeah.
And really it's turning out to be quite exciting. I tell people I deal with countries of over 1 billion in terms of population. So it has been a wonderful period of 6 months. There's serious engagement between Kenya and China. The relationship between our two countries is, of course, very, very cordial. And my experience so far has been nothing short of very painful, both at personal level and also at national level, because my interaction so far is contributing very much in improving our relationship. My experience here in China is nothing short of a miracle, because what's happening here is really very interesting. My travels around China has been very educative. The kind of knowledge which I have gained for the period I've been here is phenomenal, especially looking at where China has come from and when it started its journey of development and what has managed to achieve after this point in time is really something which it's worth emulating by any country in this globe. And so my experience in the short time I've been here has really been very phenomenal, and I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward for another few years of exciting experience in China.
Glad to have you here.
Yes, thank you.
At the same time, a lot of African people coming to China, and a lot of Chinese people are viewing their eyes on the African continent as well. Let me introduce Mr. Diao a little bit. He is the Executive Director of Alliance of Chinese Business in Africa for Social Responsibility. What kind of organization is this? Back in 2018, when the Beijing summit began and the China-Africa Cooperation Forum, there was President Xi mentioned about the China is in support of helping building a alliance like this. So it's written on part of the 8 Actions Plan. And then in 2021, 3 years after this alliance was established. So basically, it's an alliance that support Chinese investments in Africa.
So my question to you, Mr. Diao, after these 3 years, including 2018, that's the very first time we heard that the name of the alliance. After these 3 years of efforts, what have we done? So back to September 2018, at the FOCAC Beijing summit, President Xi Jinping announced that China support Chinese companies in Africa to forge an alliance of corporate social responsibilities. Yes, indeed. after the establishment of alliance, that actually received a warm response not only in Africa, but also around the world at large. So talk about our jobs. First, we encourage the companies to fulfill their social responsibilities. We help them to build a systematic, long-term, and sustainable development philosophy. This is kind of a very foundation that we further support that the China-Africa cooperation. We talk about if you want to develop in Africa, you need to know and have a deep understanding of Africa, and also to have that a cooperation in Africa. And second, we talk about there are so many Chinese companies in Africa. They build a lot of the projects connecting people together. So when we talk about these kind of mega projects or a landmark projects, so we talk about it's not only the project itself, but we also talk about that small but impactful projects that bring that the community development, that bring a lot of benefits to people. We talk about these kind of projects also actually very important in terms of China-Africa cooperation. We talk about that's a win-win cooperation. We talk about that's a common development. We talk about on one hand we have that mega projects, but at the same time we also have that small but beautiful, beneficial projects that's to bring that already a good life to people. I believe that's a solid foundation.
So Mr. Diao mentioned a lot of the investment in Africa. Certainly, we have a guest, a third guest, Mr. Kariuki. He is one of them who has kind of benefited from the project. Not yet, but certainly when you go back to Kenya, certainly you will be able to participate in one of those projects. But what have impressed us the most is that you wrote a letter at the end of last year, I would say, to the Chinese president. At the beginning of this year, he received a letter back, a prior letter from the Chinese president Xi. Tell us more on that. How did you come up with the letter and writing a letter to, the big parent of the country?
Thank you very much. I'll start by saying the high school I went to, we were often told, to whom much has been given, much will be required. So I consider myself among the 100 Kenyans of us who received an opportunity to study here in China, to have received so much from both the Kenyan government and the Chinese government through the initiative that saw us study here. So basically, from 2014, the Nairobi-Mombasa Railway started being constructed. In Kenya, we mostly refer to it as SGR. But then apparently, while we have a lot of engineering courses in Kenya, in the built environment, we do not have sufficient expertise in terms of railway engineering and related courses. So it was decided that we needed a skill development and technological transfer. So there was a program to sponsor 100 Kenyan students to study engineering courses in China, Beijing, Jiaotong University. Then they will be able to go back and further continue the construction of the railway, other infrastructures, as well as the operation of the Mombasa-Nairobi Railway. So it is under that program that 100 of us got an opportunity to study here in China. So we came to China, and it was a very good experience. We studied. I went through the classes, all the things, experienced the culture. And because we came in 3 groups, starting from 2016 up to 2018, the last group graduated in 2022. And right now, a majority of these engineers are now working with Kenya Railways, making their active contribution to the operation of the railway. And sometimes they are even, forwarded to other government ministries, to other government parastatals where their expertise might be needed. So after our graduation, I graduated in 2021. So it was a very good opportunity when we were looking back at the 4 years that we had studied and received so much. And apparently for us, I will say it was a good blessing because we didn't have to look for a job. When we graduated and got back home, Kenya Railways was waiting for us. So we went and we were absorbed immediately. And there was work already laid out for us. We went immediately to working. So according to me, this is not a very, a common thing. It's not something that we look at as very basic or something that everybody goes through. So at that time, of course, we had to thank Kenya Railways. We thanked CRBC, the China Road and Bridge Corporation, because they were the facilitators of the program. We thanked the Kenyan government through the Kenya Railways, which was our employer.
They are the contractor for phase 1 of the railway.
Yes. And then the Kenyan government through the Kenya Railways, and the Beijing Jiaotong University, which was in charge of implementing the program. So last year, I came back to Beijing Jiaotong University for a master's, still in civil engineering. So when I came back, apparently it was now an opportunity. I thought, oh, maybe we should now, thank Beijing Jiaotong University by, we can just do a letter to the administration, thank them for the good work they did to us, and we are doing so well. So at that time, apparently it coincided with the 3rd Belt and Road Forum that was held last year in October. And this was also a very good opportunity because our president, His Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, was also coming to attend. So to me, that was a very good opportunity to thank all the stakeholders. They will be all in one forum, in one place. So that is how the idea of writing the letter came up. So, of course, I had to consult with the school. I did a draft and then checked with my colleagues, majority of whom are still in Kenya. We produced a draft, which basically was, a gratitude letter. It was a thank you letter, yes. And that's how we came up with that idea and wrote the letter and then sent it.
So as we know that there are about 100 students who secured government scholarship to study the railway operation and management. And then among them, 40+ students signed the letter. And then we also know that this is a project that is really going on, has a long time history, because since 1983, the Chinese government has supported nearly 2,000 Kenyan students with full scholarships. So as you mentioned, it's part of the letter of the content is about sending gratitude. What did you specifically say to the Chinese president? I'm just curious.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Okay.
So the Belt and Road Initiative was presented in 2013 by His Excellency President Xi. So it is under the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative that most of these projects have happened, including the SGR, the Mombasa-Nairobi Railway. So according, in my view, all this is happening because of simply an idea that was presented by His Excellency and was adopted, and it has grown to benefit many other people. Besides even the Kenyans that are studying here, we have quite a number of international students studying in China through various programs, scholarships, and other exchange programs that the Chinese government or China has with many other countries. So it was very appropriate to first update him. Because in the first part of the letter, it was after salutations, of course. It is to update him that there was this program that happened under your initiative of Belt and Road Initiative. We had 100 Kenyan students came to Beijing Jiaotong University. We studied and we excelled in our studies. We graduated well and are back now in Kenya. We are making our active contributions to the SGR, the Mombasa-Nairobi Railway, and as engineers, because most of us were absorbed as engineers because we're in the engineering field. So, and even while here at Kenya Railways, while we make our contributions, we are able to, transfer also the technology and the culture that we've been learned here, besides the technical engineering skills. Then after that, we are, we are grateful for this opportunity that saw us through get this, because besides the personal gains that we have, because we have jobs, we have an income, we can support our families. In the larger perspective, Kenya has talents now. We can we can, boast of having a capacity to operate our railway, to operate our infrastructure, and even a capacity to progress further if we need to do, any more constructions and that. Yes, so that was it, to thank him for the project upon its successful completion. Thereafter, to mention some benefits, now on a macro scale that the railway has had in Kenya, creating employment opportunities now for the other local people and, spurring the economic growth. Because, whenever an infrastructure passes through a town, the people there, of course, end up benefiting through many other ways, easing the transportation of both freight and people. Yes, and then thereafter, of course, you see when you're thanking somebody, it's our Kenyan culture. You don't thank somebody with empty hands. You must present to them something, whatever it is, but you must present something as a token of appreciation. Right. So at this time, of course, we are just barely students, 2 years into work. So I doubt we will have any monetary ability to thank a person of, his position. So we thought we have to get something sentimental and something that also touches on this entire story. Because on this entire story, the Belt and Road Initiative and the SGR are at the center of it. So what was best? We thought, let's, because actually to come up with this idea was like, most people are in the capacity of like presidents. They do a lot of projects. They do a lot of initiatives. But rarely do they get to experience it firsthand. Most often, these things end up benefiting, the people or the other locals. So it was also a good opportunity to say, let us buy him a train ticket and give him from Nairobi to Mombasa. And we also thought it's best to buy...
hopefully he won't take the train.
Of course, hopefully. We are really looking forward to that. Yeah. And we bought him an economy ticket, not a first-class ticket.
Yeah.
Yes, so that he will have the real experience.
Sure.
Yes. So we also sent him a train ticket just as a token of appreciation and welcomed him to come experience our services in SGR, which are very good.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's a very interesting point because a lot of Chinese would have this kind of, emotional attachment with train tickets because, the infrastructure itself. You mentioned a lot of time SGR. It's actually Standard Gauge Railway.
Oh, yes.
It's the Mombasa-Nairobi Railway, and it opened to traffic in 2017. 480 kilometers railway and connecting East Africa's largest port city of Mombasa to the country's capital city of Nairobi. Mr. Ambassador, I want to learn about the railway itself. How significant is it to the country, to Kenya?
Definitely it is of great significance. As you may also have realized, that railway came after many, many years of running an old railway system, which was so uneconomical, inefficient, and so the standard gauge railway came at a time when transportation, especially of cargo, was of great importance, and it was going to spur connectivity, it was going to spur economic activity, it was going to help facilitate transportation from the coastal area to the hinterland, and also move goods. Kenya being a very agricultural country and exports most of its agricultural products, was going to play a major role in moving the agricultural products, especially for export to the port of Mombasa, which is at the coast. So it's of great importance, and it has really proved it so far, because the kind of cargo movement now, since the railway, this new gauge railway was introduced, has increased significantly. We've seen a lot of efficiency in terms of handling of cargo and passenger transport. I have taken it, it is a very nice mode of transport. It passes through a national park. So even the passengers would get the opportunity of watching our wildlife for free, only having paid a train ticket. And so there's a lot of significance in terms of economic importance because of connectivity. And what we are looking at is the phase 2 now of the railway, to move it now to the hinterland of the East Africa. Because at the end of the day, the intention is to connect the East African coast to the Atlantic. And so it would really be a vision which, when realized, will see development not only of Kenya, but of Africa, and more specifically of the eastern part of Africa. And so it is really generating a lot of benefits for the country, and also for the neighboring countries, because this railway is equally serving Uganda, it's equally serving Rwanda, Sudan, and DRC. Most of the goods which were taking, say, a week to reach these destinations are now taking a relatively very short time. And then the road network now has been saved of heavy usage, because before then, the cargo movement was through our roads. And so the repair and the kind of investment the country was putting in repairing the roads was very high. What you see now is there's less expenditure now on repair and reconstruction of roads. And most significantly, road carnage. You remember when there is a lot of movement of lorries in any road network, accidents are bound to happen, and so we've seen significant reduction of accidents since most of the cargo now is through the railway, and there is less cargo moving on our roads. And so really the benefits are countless, and we really want to thank the partnership between Kenya and China, which gave birth to this railway network.
I want to bring in more figures. So you mentioned about efficiency. So that shortened the cargo transportation, the railway itself, SGR, shortened the time between Mombasa and Nairobi to 8 hours. And then creation of more than 46,000 jobs in Kenya, with 90% of employees being local people. I want to so it looks like this is an infrastructure project that really goes beyond the railway itself, as you mentioned,
Yes,
because you're very proud of the port in Mombasa. And it appeals to me that you never hesitate to show it off. I mean, because there are so many circumstances that Kenya would like to showcase this to other, partners in Africa and tell, hey, this is a project that we are conducting between us and China. Why would you be so proud of it? I mean, why the infrastructure is so important?
I believe anybody would be proud of that kind of piece of infrastructure, because as I told you, for almost 100 years, there had never been an extra development of railway. The one which was existing was built by the colonial powers long time ago, around 1900s, 1910, in those days, and nothing else had been done. Now, here comes this new infrastructure, which is far much better than what existed, and which came with so much benefits. Besides cutting, as you said, cutting the transportation time from Nairobi and Mombasa, it also helped in moving mass cargo from our port on Mombasa upcountry, generated employment, helped young people like Jamlick here, and you saw the passion which Jamlick explained to us, actually what that infrastructure did to many young people in terms of building their skills and giving them an outlook which will be unforgettable in their lives, and which the country will benefit from it, especially when all of them come back home. And transferring also technology from China to Kenya, and seeing what China has done also in this country, and the kind of culture and development perspective China has put into their work. You see, bringing people here to come and see what has been happening here and taking the same story back home would help improve the kind of system and way of doing business in Kenya. And so we are really proud of this project, and we are anytime ready to show to our friends and neighbors that, look, we collaborated with China, this is what has happened, and we are looking forward to many. You haven't seen anything yet. There's more to come.
Mr. Jiao, the two African friends actually they love this product so much. For you, for that Mombasa-Nairobi Railways example of practicing social responsibility, yes, indeed. This is a really actual example for practicing the social responsibility. For this railway, no matter for China or for Kenya, actually is very important. Last November, I visited Kenya, and I took that railway. It feels so good. Very comfortable, very safe, and very fast. So it's given me really good experience, and also talking about the views that went through the national park. Yes, indeed, I enjoyed the whole wild animals and wildlife, and also that we saw that the railway, we're so proud. So for here, I believe that the showcase some significance. First, the China-Kenya cooperation under the umbrella of Belt and Road Initiative. This is a landmark project. So all the neighbors along the Belt and Road is like, as long as we work together, we can build this wonderful project. So for no matter it's political-wise or economic-wise, cultural-wise, actually this is a very good foundation built between our two countries. I believe that will also to boost our further cooperation. Second, for this Mombasa-Nairobi railway actually is very crucial to Kenya. It's not only drive the economic growth in Kenya, and to the Eastern Africa actually brought a lot of the benefits. As the ambassador mentioned, yes, indeed, the neighbor countries also benefited. For this railway, right now has operated in 7 years very safely, according to our primary calculation. So far, we have sent that the 12.8 million people. So for all the passengers, previously 10 years, as the 10 hours, as you mentioned, right now it's shortened to 8, even 5 hours. I believe that's the best choice for mobility, and actually that's based on the rail numbers. And also talk about the cargoes that's sent more than 3.2 million tons. So for all these cargoes, transportation that also help to improve that people's well-being and also play a very important role in boosting economic development. For this railway, that also showcase social responsibility because it provide jobs. So based on our observation, so the help to provide directly or indirectly, it's 74,000 jobs provided by this railway. So it calculates, there's a single person number. If it calculates like based on the households, that will be a big number behind. That is also why this railway project is so welcomed by Kenya. And through this railway, it also showcased that the harmonious coexistence between human being and nature. This is also very important, right? So for the China Road and Bridge Cooperation, they had studied a lot during the construction of this railway, especially they studied in terms of environmental protection, the wild animal, wildlife protection. So here actually is built up in the sky. So it's actually really across the whole national park. So you could enjoy that a zebra and the wild animals. Actually, the tree not really impact the wildlife, their life in the park. So we talk about for Chinese companies, they studied so well about the local condition, about the local resources. They also put a lot of emphasis on that the environmental protection. So that is why I talk about that this is so important to China, to Kenya. Let's also showcase that our good cooperation between our two countries.
Mr. Kariuki, so certainly you are preparing or be part of the SGR itself. I want to turn to your experience here in Beijing, here in China. Your Chinese is so good. I probably want to demonstrate you in the bit of the show, but certainly can feel that you're very engaged with your experience here in Beijing. So I guess my question is that tell us about your learning experience. How do you engage with your Chinese counterparts as a civil engineering student?
Okay, thank you. So,
do you speak Chinese with them? You speak
no,
go ahead, English. Yeah.
Okay. So the first business of the day when we go to China was to learn Chinese, because as soon as we landed here, we realized that our very good English that we had learned in Kenya was not going to save the day. So we had to learn Chinese. So I spent the first year actually learning Chinese in Shandong, Weihai province. Very hospitable people, very warm, very welcoming. They gave us a very good welcome in China. And so I always say that my first experience in China was very good gratitude to the Shandong people. So I always like telling people that if somebody asks me where I come from, I tell them I'm a Shandongren. Tell them I come from Shandong because that's where I started my journey in China. So besides that, the experience academically was very superb. The program was well organized because there was consultation and there was, a cooperation between Kenya Railways. Kenya Railways was also to give an input to the school to say we need this type of skills. CRBC was able to make their recommendation because you see there are people who are in the business of construction and operation of railways. They were able to put their input and say, from our experience, from operations, we will recommend this type of program, this type of studies, and this way of execution. The school, being the implementing institution, was also able to say, this is the best way to approach. So finally, they came up with a very good program. And how was the program structured? We had the classroom, basic classroom. We had laboratories for like any other engineering course. Then every holiday, winter and summer, we always had an industrial attachment. The time that we were in China, we had industrial attachment in China in different cities with different companies and with different institutions, the technical institutions that deal with the hand-on trainings. So those were very important in complementing the classwork that you are doing. Besides that, we also had, very good faculty, the lecturers that were taking us through the programs. They understood the content and they were passionate about teaching us. And I was impressed, and this I must mention that at some point in time, if the school didn't have a specific teacher who could teach in English, because our program was in English, they went as far as calling teachers and catering for them from the US or other countries, they will get a teacher from any other place as long as they can teach in English to give us the classes, which was very good. Then the classwork, I will say, was superb and excellently executed. Besides that, we had, the cultural experience. Like I said, we first started by learning Chinese. Then we engaged in, the Chinese cultural thing. Like my most memorable one is the, it's called Dragon Boat Festival. We were engaged. We were taken to competition, which we also won. We have traveled to various cities in China. And to me, besides the traveling and, the enjoyment that we get, it offers a perspective of understanding the specific challenges in China and the specific solutions that they have come up with to solve their problem. Because I think what the main thing that I have learned is something. Recently, there's been a conversation about Chinese modernization with Chinese characteristics, specific solutions to unique challenges that people experience. For instance, we as Kenya, we might borrow some things from China of how they have approached their challenges. But still, there's need for us to fine-tune our solutions to the specific and unique challenges that we experience, which might not be similar or rather exactly the same as those of China. So that is one very important thing that I have learned in my experience while here. And besides that, the other thing that I would really like to mention is, the dedication. China has come within the past few years. It has come to perform so excellently that many countries are looking up to follow suit.
Right.
And how were they able to do this? Dedication. If we put our mind to something, we have a plan, then it's very likely that you are going to succeed. I have a friend who often tells me that success and failure are predictable. Yes.
Yeah, that's a very comprehensive, cooperation, because from both the project-wise as well as the educational-wise. I want to turn to one of our comments on the Mr. Chunhe says, does the alliance, I think that's addressing to Mr. Diao, does the alliance provide financial backing as well? 想问您的是，有没有就是您的这个组织哈，也不是不是给中国的企业提供资金上的这个援助？我想问的就是说。
So, as you mentioned, that the A2 guests they talk about that the cooperation, the project-wise, and also that educational-wise. So, talk about that it is very strong cooperative ties. Also, that the Chinese companies they actually performed their social responsibility overseas. So what's that benefit ourselves? So talk about why we established this alliance. The goal is to strengthen the Chinese companies, their efforts to assume their social responsibilities. We talk about when the companies, they did business in other countries, but at the same time, you need to return back to the society. You need to bring benefit to the local community, and talk about social responsibility that include a lot of things. We talk about the job providing, and we talk about job training. We talk protection of interests of women and the children, and we talk about that. A lot of things that we can provide to the local communities. And for Chinese companies in Africa, in Kenya, we have been there for more than decades, and we established a lot of projects, big and small. Actually, there are a lot of the area for cooperation. We talk about agriculture cooperation, mining cooperation, and also talk about infrastructure construction cooperation, and also looking at the airport, ports, railway, roads, and also that the power stations. There are a lot of projects that's under our cooperation. And for these projects, you need to think about how you pay back to the society so that Chinese companies can develop together with the local community in Kenya. And we talk about that the Chinese company, that's the China non-ferrous metal mining. They established a training center in Kenya. So they provided the training, and also the people with special skills also got opportunity to be cultured there. And also we talk about the railway. So far we have helped more than 2,800 that the engineers were the people that gain their skills related to railway construction. So this is not only help to develop local economy, but also at the same time, the Chinese companies actually also got benefited. So we talk about that the cooperation participation for win-win cooperation. So this is a community shared the destiny. So more and more Chinese companies pay a lot of attention to perform their social responsibility. We not just go there for a project, we go there for a greater good. So by performing our responsibilities, the Chinese companies got so well, got along with the local government, with local companies, and also that local community. And also in return, we received a lot of help and support from the destination company and also the country. So that also helped to boost friendship. So that's a really win-win cooperation. We talk about not only for China, but also for African countries. So we need to better practice social responsibility. Let's say if we only thought about our business benefit, we only think about that project, we didn't care about the local needs, we don't care about local people's life, then it's really hard to get involved in that country.
So it's a sense of engagement. I want to further on encourage our netizens to further on comment on our live streaming, because at the same time a lot of people are leaving comments. I want to read another comment actually from YouTube. Yes, that's YouTube. Janice Tone asked a question about what was Mr. Bett's experience with China before he became ambassador. I guess Mr. Diao mentioned about mineral cooperation as well as agricultural cooperation. Why food security is so important?
My experience before I came to China was, of course, when I arrived, I confirmed most of the things, and most of the things I saw here were beyond what I already knew. Of course, we knew China's growth and development was very fast, and it was the #2 economy of the world. And so definitely most countries, Africa included, was now viewing China in a different way. And partnership and collaboration with China was increasing very rapidly. And the appreciation which I had even before I came to China was the fact that when China started collaborating with Africa, meaningful development started being seen in the region. Practical infrastructural development started happening because most of the infrastructure you currently see in Africa is as a result of the partnership between China and Africa. And it goes to show the perspective of China towards development and the philosophy of the leadership and the CPC in China that development is a right of every human being. It's not a reserve of a particular group. And so that is why when the ability of China came of age to partner with other nations in the area of development, it became so practical, it became evident, and the power of China as a manufacturing country of the world was evident. The kind of logistics which China built so that supply chains could work globally was amazing. And so China was more than what I expected, especially when I arrived here in China and really saw what was happening. It was actually beyond what I expected, but most of it is what I really knew because we had started feeling the presence of China in my country and also in Africa in general.
Do you see more potentials, such as in agricultural, especially maybe new industries such as new energy, clean energy, sustainable development?
Yes, going forward, and even what is already happening is collaboration and partnership with, between Kenya and China in the area of agriculture. China has managed to feed its people. China has managed to modernize its agriculture. And so the kind of strategy which China used to modernize and mechanize agriculture is what we are partnering with China in Kenya so that we increase our productivity, because at the end of the day, to feed your people, you have to increase productivity and modernize your agricultural activities. And so doing it in a clean manner, in a green manner is what China is leading now. When it comes to clean energy, I think China, in terms of production of solar power equipment, in terms of even transitioning themselves from fossil fuels to e-vehicle manufacture, China is leading. So generally, when it comes to clean development, China is in the forefront, and Kenya is doing so well in the area of clean energy. You may be interested to know that 93% of energy in Kenya is clean energy. And so the kind of productivity we are generating in Kenya is through clean energy sources. And so we pride ourselves as really leading in that area. And going forward, the kind of investments the country is putting now is to make it 100%, because sooner or later we will actually be producing all our energy requirements in a clean environment and through clean sources.
Right.
And so partnership with China is working so well because China is also a leader in that perspective. Yeah.
Also on YouTube, a question to Chairman Diao from Captain Ibrahim Tarori. My question to Mr. Diao is, will China invest in education of AES states in areas of manufacturing and minerals processing, technology, infrastructure, and etc.? 刁主席，我想
As Ambassador talk about that cooperation in emerging industries, how you view that the future trend of cooperation? When it comes to cooperation between China and African countries, it has a broad and vast cooperation future. And right now for our alliance, we also search a lot of the opportunities, and we also hear the Chinese companies and also the African friends, they actually raise a lot of the needs to us. So going forward, talk about our future cooperation. Yes, indeed. As we just mentioned, we talk about cooperation in areas such as agriculture, infrastructure construction, resources, energy resources, education, job training, protection of the women and children's interests, I believe there are vast room for cooperation. A lot of Chinese companies, they considered that African countries see a blue ocean, which means there is infinite potential of cooperation. Yes, indeed. Previously, we led a team of the entrepreneurs from China. They visited to Kenya, to Zambia, and actually they made their very first overseas visit to African countries. And we saw that there is actually a lot of a cooperation potential in African countries. We talk about that maybe some places, they're not well developed, but they actually have vast markets. And we talk about agricultural cooperation. That could be a very important cooperation field going forward. In Zambia, this time we did a trial project, and we actually brought the two companies together to help Zambia to deal with the drought situation this year. Because of the drought, they did not have a good harvest this year, so we actually to get the electricity companies actually to get in, to use electricity to pump the water and also to irrigate the farming land so they can have the harvest or they have food to enjoy this year. So that's not only for the agriculture field, but we're also looking at other areas. We talk about digital cooperation, we talk about AI maybe. There are also a lot of companies actually help African countries to do something in planning in these emerging areas. I believe talking about all these areas, there is a vast potential.
I guess it's difficult to say whether this is a cooperation in the traditional field or in a new field, because it's all combined together, as Mr. Diao just mentioned, how agricultural development cooperation has boosted, how the idea of sustainable development have boosted the agricultural ties. I want to add more data over here. So Kenya has an estimated 18,000 megawatts of solar power potential, followed by geothermal and wind power at 10,000 and 4,600 megawatts. And a lot of Chinese firms has been participating in that, as Mr. Diao has mentioned, and also really can boost the traditional agricultural perspective. If I want you to mention one agricultural thing, because you were previously a cabinet secretary for agriculture in Kenya. Yeah. I want you to name one thing. What would you recommend to the Chinese audience? Agricultural product, avocado? Coffee? Oh.
I won't recommend one. I'll recommend a bouquet of, I'll recommend quite a number.
Okay.
Avocado, of course, is one of them.
Okay.
It is one product which now is being produced in Kenya in big volumes. Kenyan tea is the best tea. I know China has very nice tea.
Yeah.
But Kenyan tea, when you taste it, you will not leave it after that. So Kenyan tea, Kenyan coffee is now gaining access to Chinese market. And I would wish that the Chinese people start sampling Kenyan tea, Kenyan coffee, Kenyan avocado, and we are working with the Chinese authorities to get more products from Kenya to access this market, especially the mangoes and other fruits as well. So there's going to be more and more Kenyan products now accessing this market. And so the Chinese population will sample most of our products soon.
Mr. Kariuki, I'm curious. When you come to Kenya, or when you come to China, what are the things that you miss most from Kenyan? What thing haven't come to the Chinese market but you really miss the most?
One thing I miss that's in Kenya, not here. Let me see. Basically, the first basic thing that most of us would miss is food. You know, we are used to our food back at home.
Right.
And for the food, what I usually miss most is in Kenya, our eating culture, basically, we don't do a lot of spices. And we also don't add a lot of, for instance, I have salt, tomatoes, and onion. It's basic, you know, for my food. So I will miss things like, you know, basic nyama choma. Nyama choma is basically barbecue. You just roast the meat on a flame and add salt.
Ugali.
That is enough.
Plus ugali.
Yeah, plus yeah, and plus ugali. Nyama choma is always eaten with ugali and kachumbari. Kachumbari is basically some onion, you know, tomatoes, and some coriander. Chop them, mix them, and then you can enjoy them. And then the other thing that I will miss, maybe say it's you know, some basic things, but this we can always come with here. We have some footwear. We call them akala. Akala. We can't get them here in the Chinese market, but in Kenya we have them. The only challenge with this, they are very durable. So if you buy one and come with it here, you will never need to buy any other. So that is not much of a challenge.
Absolutely. So when it comes to food, everyone has a say.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
So let me bring you more on the bilateral relationship. So China and Kenya celebrated 60th anniversary last year of their diplomatic ties. That was in December 2023. So the bilateral ties are thriving in 2023. Also last year, bilateral trade volume reached $8.1 billion and Kenya is China's largest trading partner in East Africa, while China is Kenya's largest trading partner and the primary source of imports. So I want to still ask you about how would you be competitive when you go back to your home country?
Kenya is very competitive, especially when it comes to talents and skills. So I have had the opportunity to come and study here in China. That, of course, gives me an edge, but it does not outrightly say that when I go back, I will be better placed than others. Simply when I go back home, there are also professionals that have come out of Kenyan universities. In their own rights, they are competitive enough. They understand, you know, what we need, for instance, in the industry, engineering, infrastructure, and all this. So this competitive nature of our Kenyan system is something else that I say is very good, because when I go back home, I still also have to be at the top of my game to make sure that I can access opportunities, to make sure that I can make my contributions, to make sure that whatever I'm doing is impactful and is being seen. And all the same, at the same time, as much as we have this, you know, the competitive system, I think competition is only as productive as how we cooperate. We are competitive, but we are cooperating. I need to know what you have that I don't have. We do not need to compete in that perspective. For instance, somebody who has gone through the Kenyan system, say in engineering, civil engineering for this case, they might have an experience that I have not had while here in China. They might have some approach to a solution which might be cheaper, economical, and more convenient for a Kenyan challenge than I would have from what I've learned here, because you understand that there will always be those slight differences. On the other hand, I might have an edge on the area of, say, I know there's a way we can apply some technology here. There's a way we can also twist this challenge in this way and still end up with the same result. So I'm looking at it from the point of we'll be competitive, but we'll be cooperating. Yes, and working together to make sure that we tap from both sides. And this covers, you know, in every field. There are those who have gone, for instance, even in the system, there are those who have gone through different systems, different curriculums, or rather different approaches to getting their skills that they have. There are those who have done, say, diploma. There are those who have done degrees. There are those who have done serious research-oriented postgraduates. There are those who are in academia doing research, you know, just furthering research. So we incorporate everyone on board, and we are able to come up with the best solutions for our challenges.
We see the reply letter, because we haven't got a chance to discuss the details in the reply letter to the Kenyan students. President Xi said he encouraged the students to contribute to China-Kenya friendship. And in the reply letter, President Xi said the Belt and Road Initiative turned ideas of revitalization of China-Kenya into reality. And he calls on the SGR a flagship project plus successful example, and build a bond between this road of happinesses. And he also in the letter mentioned that the Belt and Road Initiative grand blueprint of China-Africa comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership, and realized by promising young people like you who will be, you know, further carry on such, you know, people-to-people tie. Mr. Ambassador, I would like to ask you for comment on that. What would you expect from the upcoming China-Africa Cooperation Forum?
Yes, there are a lot of expectations, of course, and real expectations. You started by saying we celebrated as a country 60 years of collaboration with China. And so the relationship between Kenya and China has come a long way. From 2017, it was upgraded to Strategic Comprehensive Partnership, which means the cooperation now becomes deeper and mutually beneficial. And so the FOCAC framework, which the summit is happening soon, also is another opportunity to deepen that relationship. It is an opportunity to take stock of what we've done in the last 3 years and to see what new projects, what new approaches, what new collaboration are we going to build going forward. And so I am seeing partnership of China and Kenya now moving to another level. Moving to another level by seeing the benefits of what we've done so far and coming up with new projects which will cement and improve a win-win situation between the two countries. We are looking at the area of agriculture, as we said earlier, looking at ways of making our agriculture modern, especially in Kenya, by moving away basically from rain-fed agriculture to building more dams with the collaboration with China so that we can move our productivity to irrigated productivity, which does not really depend on rain all the time. I'm seeing a situation where during our transition now from fossil fuel production to green energy, China is going to be a very vital partner in terms of collaborating and in terms of bringing in new technologies from China to help us fully transition to green energy. I'm seeing collaboration more in the area of technology. As we speak now, a lot of technological firms from China are operating in Kenya, and there is serious collaboration between Kenya and China's enterprises in the area of ICT, in the area of AI now. I think that's another area where Kenya is collaborating very well with China. And so this forum, which is happening soon, is but going to deepen and improve and make this partnership between Kenya and China a more win-win and move it to another level. So we are looking forward to this forum.
Yeah, because it's a big gathering of more than 50 countries.
Yes.
As always back in the past. I want to zoom out to a larger content. When it comes to China-Africa ties, the trade volume increased by 20 times over the past 20 years, and China's direct investment in Africa increased by 100 times over the past 20 years.
So, Mr. Diao, the alliance has been established for 3 years. From 2018, the very first time we heard alliance, and very soon there will be upcoming summit in Beijing. What's your expectation? So we have established for 3 years, and during the whole process, we have made a lot of efforts to get Chinese companies to perform social responsibilities, which also received that recognition by the African countries' government and the local communities. And I believe that we are doing a very positive, important job. For the upcoming Beijing summit, the companies in both countries have great expectations. I hope that for the upcoming Beijing FOCAC summit, I hope to see more new initiatives to be announced. For our alliance, besides getting Chinese companies performing social responsibility, we also help to make our contribution to boosting the economic cooperation or industrial cooperation. The local companies coming to us saying that they want clean water, and some they come to us to say in the hospital they need the doctors to help to protect the women and children's interests. And also we talk about the irrigation, and we talk about the new energy, renewable energy infrastructure. And they raised this requirement to us and hope that our alliance can guide the Chinese companies to have that projects or cooperation in their countries. I believe this is a vast room for further cooperation, and we're also looking forward for this further cooperation. For after that, the summit, September 7th, for our alliance, we will also hold a big conference that's for the industrial cooperation. A lot of our friends from African countries, they made their visit to our conference to attend the conference, and also for the ambassadors. And we also talk about how we can better host a conference this year. For the conference, we also have 6 countries: Kenya, Zambia, and Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Uganda, Nigeria. And these 6 countries, they will talk about the business environment in their countries and also talk about potential cooperative projects. I believe this is in the interest of Chinese companies. So that's a heavier responsibility on our shoulders. We not only help to perform a social responsibility for Chinese companies in Africa, and also hope to build the bridges between 2 countries to deal with that, provide better jobs, to provide the job training, protect the environment. There are a lot of areas waiting for us to make further efforts. So we have a lot of things to do.
Yeah, certainly the upcoming summit will really give a lot of opportunities for personal exchanges, exchanges through companies and investments as well. Before we go, I want to ask one last question to all 3 of you. One last question. What can a stable China-Africa tie bring to the world? I want to start from you. From your perspective, why a stable tie can, give any benefit to you as the future talent, as the younger generation?
Okay. I'll mention, a community with a shared future for mankind. This ideal has been going on, here in China about, modernization and working together towards a future that, it's good for everyone, especially in areas such as sustainable development. And we need to be very deliberate in how we foster sustainable development. What does that mean? Let me pick, for instance, something like climate change. Now, climate change is like this. If I do something that affects the climate, the effects will not only affect me, they'll also affect the others who did nothing, right? So what does that simply mean? That I should be interested in what you're doing. You should be interested in what I'm doing. And that is a very good ground for you to say that what you're doing might be for the common good of both of us, but it might also be for the detriment of both of us. So if we come together, we are able to agree on a very specific and deliverable framework that will safeguard both your interest, both our interests, right? And then it's only in that way that we can have a sustainable development that is safe for each and every one of us, and in which all of us can enjoy and benefit from the fruits of such kind of development. So it is very important for, Kenya and Africa and the China relationship to stabilize this relationship so that, to make sure that in every undertakings that we have the common interest, we have the common good of our peoples at the center of each undertaking.
Mr. Diao, what do you think? With this so close economic investment ties, when that China-African countries go together, what benefit we can bring to the whole world? Just now, the young man actually said very good words. We mentioned for many times, we talk about that to build a community with a shared future for mankind. That's a big topic. Under it, if we look at the China-African countries, we are so close to each other. We based on the very sound people-to-people exchanges and our friendship. We had a very good cooperative history and talk about our both sides cooperation. That could means a lot to the whole world. economic development and also the whole world a recovery. A lot of things we're doing now actually to build a China-Africa community with a shared destiny. A lot of things actually is need not only for our both countries but also the whole world needs. We talk about cooperation, we talk about a mutual beneficial cooperation, and also for the different fields discussion, we talk about skill development that's actually benefit to the whole world. So going forward, China-African countries cooperation will yield more results. We'll have a deeper cooperation that will build a shared future for all of us and also share the cooperative results among all the countries. This is also what we are pursuing for. So we talk about for these mega landmark projects, we're doing all these, but at the same time, we're also looking at what people really need. So we talk about that's a small but beautiful projects. So this time, we will also have an initiative. We call on that's more projects to be implemented in African countries. This kind of like a small project but bring more benefit to people. I believe that's a vast future.
Ambassador Bett, what do you think? Why does it matter to the world?
It really matters. It really matters because Africa, first and foremost, is the continent of the future. Africa is where the resources of the future is going to be. And so collaboration and strengthening partnership between China and Africa is going to stabilize the world because most of what will influence the world will be coming from Africa. And looking at the spirit and the philosophy of China of not leaving anybody behind, it would mean, therefore, even at that point in time when most of the resources will be coming from Africa, the intention is not to leave anybody behind. It is to use the resources available for the benefit of the global good. And so the relationship again between China and Africa will bring out the voice of stability to the world because this issue of unipolar system globally is not good. It is good to have a safe and stable and peaceful multipolar system globally. And that can only be achieved when China and Africa collaborates and deepens its relationship. So I'm seeing, and you are right to say, the relationship between Africa and China will actually stabilize the world going forward.
Right, from a small infrastructure cooperation all the way beyond to more fields of ties. I would like to give sincere thanks to all three of you, Ambassador Bett, Chairman Diao, as well as Mr. Kariuki. Thank you so much for talking with CGTN, and that would do it for this edition of Coffee with Ambassadors, and we hope to come back to you and talk to more ambassadors ahead of the China-Africa Cooperation Forum. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.